Hello, America, and welcome to the program. I want to talk to you a little bit about. I feel very sorry for Stephen. He's a member of our audience, and I asked before. I said, "Has anybody been to this show before?" And Stephen raised his hand, and I said, "What show was it?" And he said, "It was the one on the Holocaust." I said, "It's not going to get much happier for you tonight." Tonight, I want to talk to you about what happens next. I want you to understand that these things do not necessarily happen next. But I don't think people think out of the box enough in this country. I don't think people even understand what kind of game is being played at a much higher level by people like Spooky Dude. Hello, I am Spooky Dude, George Soros, and I am coming for you. I don't think people understand that all the world is a stage. But there's somebody up here that is that has different interest than yours. This week, we talked about how the Fed is monetizing our debt. Now, they're admitting to about, what is it, $2.6 trillion? That means run the printing presses. $2.6 trillion, that's a lot. They said that they were only going to do, I think it was $600 billion. Some experts say that that means about 10 to 20% loss of the value of the money that you have in the bank account in the next 2 years. Maybe, if things go well. And that's what they're admitting to, but we can't see any of their books, so we don't know. The one thing that people always say is, why would somebody do this? What is in their interest? Why would somebody want to collapse a dollar, or why would somebody want to, redistribute the wealth so much? Well, several reasons. One, just like the show that we did on the Fabian socialists in England, which are just like our progressives. They're all intertwined in the early 20th century. If you remember that big stained glass window, and if I can remember right, it said something along the lines of, "We will remold it closer to our heart's desire," and that was the world. And that's what they're doing. There are a lot of people that don't believe in capitalism or the free market system or anything like that. They don't believe in it. And so they want to remold it. And this is their opportunity. And boy, they are coming out of the woodwork. I want to talk to you a little bit about the pressures that our country is under. And it's not just our country, it is the whole world. A year and a half ago, almost 2 years ago, I came to you and on this network. I had been talking about it for about 2 years on another network. But 2 years ago, I didn't believe the same kind of things that I believe today. There are things that you do your homework, and if you're a reasonable person and you do your homework, there are things that you will reject. For instance, Bush didn't blow up the levees, and we did land on the moon. However, there are other things that once you do your homework, you have to say, okay, gosh, I have to consider that that's real. I have to consider that's actually happening. And then you start to look at the amount of evidence. In the last 2 years, we've learned an awful lot about our country together. We've learned some really good stuff and some really bad stuff about our country. I mean, we screwed the Indians. We screwed the daylights out of the Indians. We really, I think, went astray as a country with Andrew Jackson. He was a bad dude, man. There's some things that we have to address as a nation. We have to try to be better. We have to learn from our mistakes, not bury them, learn from them, but also not exploit those mistakes. And there are an awful lot of people in America that would like to exploit those mistakes. Equal number that would like to bury them and forget them. But do people really want to destroy it? Well, people like Cloward and Piven do. Cloward and Piven, you probably didn't even know who these people were. Unless you were living in the basement of your house. If you were a progressive, maybe. A diehard progressive. Or you were living in the basement of your mom's house, in your underpants eating Cheetos and going, "I'm telling you, it's Cloward and Piven." This is an article from The Nation. This was, done back again in 2010, but it was originally run in the 1960s. The Weight of the Poor, a strategy to end poverty. These are the people in the 1960s that didn't like our system, thought we were the oppressor back then. And the best way to collapse the system is not through war or bombing or anything else. You collapse it through the economy. You drive people into poverty and then drive them right into the arms of the government payroll, and the government can't afford it, and eventually it collapses. We've learned about the people like the Weather Underground. This is Prairie Fire. We did a couple of episodes on this, the politics of revolutionary anti-imperialism. I mean, it is frightening stuff. But again, this is from the 1960s. This is Bill Ayers. When we went over this, I think we might have even done a week on it. When we went through this, it was pretty frightening. It was pretty darn frightening because a lot of it sounds like what's being done today. Oh, by the way, Indian markings. Like I said, some people like to exploit our mistakes, not heal them. Then I went overseas. And this is 2 years ago, and I told you about the coming insurrection. This is a little book written by the Invisible Committee. It's available at almost any college bookstore in America. Written by 12 people. Some of them went to jail for writing it in Europe. This is how to cause trouble. This is break up families, destroy the family. This is destroy the machinery of capitalism. Destroy everything you can. Get out on the streets because they want their promised communism. Because they, over in France and Europe, have been promised communism by these progressive, if you will, Democrat socialists over in Europe. And they say, you're not ever going to give us communism. We'll take it. Now is the chance. We learned about this. Here's another one by the same group of people, Introduction to Civil War. This is written by the folks with Van Jones. This is Reclaiming Revolution, standing together to organize a revolutionary movement or storm. I begged you for 2 years to read this. You want to know how much trouble we're in? This guy is in the Oval Office, or has been, and is still hanging around all the right people. This talks about how there must be a revolution. He pines for Stalin. We told you about this. Liberating Black Theology. Liberation Black Theology. It's the Bible and the Black experience in America. This is Cone, but more importantly, this is Barack Obama. It's not racism. I thought for a while he must be a racist because you can't pin him down. You don't know what his thinking is so foreign that you're like, I don't even recognize this. And so you just keep picking up blocks and trying to put them, square peg in a round hole, and you're like, that doesn't fit. Until you see his roots, until you see the roots of Obama's rage. This is Dinesh D'Souza's book. This one puts this together and this together. And all of a sudden you're like, oh. And then you start to understand this. And then you start to understand who's standing around as well. And now you're starting to have some spooky stuff. I told you about this book. This is a follow-up, really, to this one. This is How to Do It, and this is We Did It, and I love the title, We Are an Image from the Future. This is how they're doing it in Greece right now, with pictures and everything else. Picture of our future. The ABCs of revolution. Then there's this. I love this. For our Spanish-speaking friends in the audience. A new year to fight back against capitalism, racism, war, repression, for a new urgency in the struggle for world socialism. After the November 2nd midterm elections, join us at the Workers' World Party National Conference in New York City. This is happening here. I don't want to talk to you about anymore about this. I could play their video over and over and over again. I mean, the new video comes in daily. Frightening stuff that are against capitalism. They say capitalism won't work because it can't handle the mass growth of unemployment. Well, yeah, because what we've done is we've mixed the free market and Marxism together. It doesn't work. It doesn't work. They talk about these people. I've read some of their, in fact, do I have it here? Yeah, here. Capitalism in Crisis. I mean, I read this today at lunch and went over it, and it is, I mean, it's, class exploitation, private property is the problem, all of it. And the thing I found very, very interesting is actually on this one, this is one of their flyers. It says here, We join with those fighting corporate injury to the environment, yet interject anti-capitalist perspective. Workers' World Party and FIST protect repression against anti-war and other activists. We organize with many forces, oppose U.S.-backed wars in Iraq and Afghanistan, occupations from Haiti to Palestine, and threats against Iran and intervention in Latin America. Got it? They are, they're not fans of America. When you have this and an unstable economy, it is a recipe for disaster. When you have corruption in your own government, where the government is taking money from the unions, and the unions have an army of people who say, I want my pension. People who are, they're good people. I want my pension. But you have people with kind of nefarious underpinnings, and then you have a bunch of people in Washington that are not necessarily the most honest around. Bad things can happen. Then you add on top of it people whose interests you can't even begin to understand, because you don't think like they do. They're globalists, and, well, what we like to do is take the money and devalue the dollar. George Soros, they want to manage the decline of the dollar. Well, you wouldn't want that because that hurts you. A lot of people say that it will never happen here, that things cannot change in America. Well, I don't know how the laws of economic physics or just all physics break down at our shores. They don't. They don't. We're not special. This isn't a special land because it's, oh, look, it's magic fairy dust from the trees. It's special because we have always thought differently. We have thought out of the box. I have my book Broke. Where's the book Broke? In the first opening chapter of Broke, do you have it? Here it is. In the opening chapter of Broke, I talk about what happened to Rome. It's the same exact story. You just go to the bookstore, I guarantee you, you read the first 15 pages in the bookstore. You will buy the book. Because what happened in Rome is happening now. They devalued education. They devalued work. And the government was playing all kinds of games with money. And eventually, you couldn't leave the Empire of Rome without being killed. People trying to escape, they'd kill you if you did that. Then there's one other thing. There's the pressure, as where we started, the pressure on the dollar. Our debt is too big. And the whole world knows it. The whole world is going the other direction. We're going into the land of insanity. How easy can things fall apart? And what do all of these things mean? Can you tie them together? Is there any relevance here? I'm not doing this show to scare you. I am doing this show to break your mind open so you can consider the possibilities. Because the only way there isn't panic, if some of these things come true, is if you know them in advance. If you know you're in a haunted house and you're like, oh, coming around that corner, a guy's going to jump out and go, boo! When he does, you laugh. Don't be frightened by any of these things. Ask yourself, okay, does this sound reasonable? If it does, do your own homework. Question with boldness. Don't take anything we say on this program or anything I say for gospel, because it's not. A lot of it is my opinion and my homework. Do your own homework. The second thing that you have to ask yourself is, okay, if I think there's a decent chance that this stuff could happen, what do I do to protect me, my family, my friends, my neighbors, my country? Because we're ultimately responsible. It's not Spooky Dude. It's not his responsibility to take care of us. It's our job. Empower yourself. Damon Vickers is a man that I met, I don't know, about a year ago, I think. He's the managing director of 9 Points Capital Partners, and he is also the author of The Day After the Dollar Crashes, a survival guide for the rise of the New World Order. That doesn't sound happy to me. Damon is here. You line out... Hi, Damon. How are you?
Hey, good to see you again.
You line out a 15-day calendar here. China starts with, China says no more bonds.